this square, which is square number 1. We can see that the toast or the graham cracker starts and crosses just below the halfway point. It crosses just above the bottom right corner of number 1. It comes all the way over to maybe past the tick mark on the bottom, by maybe halfway, so maybe halfway. Comes over here, comes over here. And I'm just gonna follow this all the way over, all the way, and I can see that it crosses just below the tick mark, comes all the way over, does the same thing in number 2 box, all the way over, and continues until just past the bottom tick mark. So that is my graham cracker. I could just go right on to the next box, but maybe I want to see where the bottom graham cracker is. Why not? Okay, so the bottom graham cracker, I can see that it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's in the 10 box, which is the 10 box. And it comes into the 10 box just to the left, like halfway between the bottom left corner and the tick mark of the 9. So it comes in here and it comes down, and then it is like really close to the line that makes up the top of the 10. So I'm going to come across, come all the way across my 11, come across into my 12, and it goes past the tick mark, curves, and goes up about halfway between the tick mark and the corner. So halfway between the tick mark and the corner, like that. So this is the bottom, my bottom graham cracker. All right, let's go ahead and get in the rest of the marshmallow. So, which line should we do next? Should we do this line next? This is kind of cool. All right, so I can see that the chocolate comes just out from underneath. And the 1 box comes out. So the chocolate sauce drips down into the number 4 box, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is our number 4 box. I know it comes down, and does it come all the way to our tick mark? Not quite. Doesn't come down that far. And then it comes up almost to the top of the square. And then it comes down and it crosses into our 5 box right at the tick mark. So it's always nice to have where it's coming from and where it's going. And then it curves up and it has a little drip kind of in the middle, and then like shoo, like a roller coaster, and it crosses from the 5 into the 6, halfway between the tick mark and the top corner, halfway between the tick mark and the top corner. Comes down, up, down, up. And I'm going to come back and look at these shapes, right? And make adjustments. Now in the 6 box, comes up and almost touches the top of that box, and then down and down. So it comes up and almost touches the top of the box, and then comes down and down. And I can see that the chocolate starts in the top right box, which is my number 3 box, just to the left of my graham cracker, so someplace in here. It kind of comes down, curves around. It's really important to go back and look at the shapes. Like, I might make an adjustment here on my first couple of drips to try to get the shape as close as possible. Now this is a little kawaii cartoon, and nobody really is going to care that much or even notice if your drip is a little bit different from these drips. But when we get to more complicated characters, then you'll definitely notice. So my marshmallow is going to come off of the chocolate syrup over here and kind of like bow out, and it crosses my 6 box, it crosses between my tick mark and the corner of the box, between the tick mark and the corner of the box. So it crosses here. So it's always nice to see where the line is coming from and where it's going. And you can give it a little sketchy quality to it. That's kind of nice so that you don't get too wrapped up in making one line and getting it in the perfect place. And then it's going to curve back around. And let's see down here where the chocolate sauce is, this line that is the top of the chocolate, or maybe that's the top of the Hershey candy bar. It is, if this is my tick mark for my 9 box, it's right along that halfway line. So give myself a little guideline. And if this is the tick mark in the halfway line vertically, then it's just to the right of that. So this is just to the right, so it's going to be here. And I'm going to push my cartoon up. So I'm still working in the 9 box, which is this one right here. My Hershey bar line comes across just underneath the tick marks for the 9, 8, and into the 7. So it's just underneath those tick marks. Give myself a sketchy line, and then it comes up. And let's see, maybe give myself the other edge of the marshmallow so it's coming out of the chocolate, and it comes down. And if I look at my number 4 box, it's halfway between my tick mark and the edge of the bottom left corner of the 4. So here's my 4, left, tick, halfway, and that's where my marshmallow is going to come out. And then it's going to come down and meet the bottom of the chocolate. So now my little chocolate comes down, has a little curve like that. That's this curve here. And the dribble is going to come across, and then this little dribble comes down and touches the bottom of my 7 square. So it's going to come across, a little bloopy, and touch the bottom of my 7 square. And then it's going to cross halfway between my tick mark and the bottom left of my 8 box. And it's going to do a little wiggly in here, and at the other side of the 8 box, it's going to cross halfway between my tick mark and the bottom corner. So it's going to, let's see, wiggle, 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 and then cross. And then it has a big drip and an even bigger drip, and then it comes back up to the edge of the marshmallow. So big drip, bigger drip, and it comes across to the marshmallow, something like that. And then my graham cracker is kind of turning in like this. Now if I look really carefully, there's something a little off. And I think there's multiple things. See how my graham cracker sticks out more than it does in the original picture? I'm going to go ahead and fix that now. I'm going to check my proportions. So from the tick mark to the corner, it's about halfway. Between the tick mark and the corner, it's about halfway. That looks pretty good. And then the marshmallow is crossing halfway between the corner and the tick mark, halfway between the corner and the tick mark. So I think it's a small thing, but I think that the marshmallow comes out a little bit. And then that would make the chocolate come out a little bit, and maybe the graham cracker comes in a little bit. Again, nobody's really going to care or know when it comes to this little character, but when you're trying to do super photorealism, then it's really helpful to be super duper accurate. Okay, so that actually looks closer to my reference image. I can go ahead and put in the eyes. The left eye is at the intersection between my 4, 5, 7, and 8. So here's my 4, 5, 7, and 8. And I can see that it is a big oval, and it's coming down about halfway in the 7 box, halfway down between the corner and the tick mark. So here's my 7, halfway between the corner and the tick mark. I'm going to give myself that little line. That's the bottom of his eye. It comes up about halfway between the bottom corner and the tick mark of the 4 box. That's how far up it comes. Here's the tick mark. Here's the corner. That's how far up the eye comes. And it comes about halfway between the corner and the tick mark for the width of the eye in the 4 box. Here's the tick mark, here's the corner, here's halfway. So I can kind of give myself, wherever that line crosses, I'm giving myself little reference tick marks. And then over here, it's not quite halfway. So if this is half, it's less than halfway. Sometimes this part is really hard for students because you've practiced making your gridded drawing the same size as the original reference. In this case, we're blowing the whole picture up. So you have to remember that each shape, including the circle for his eye, is going to be bigger on your drawing than it was on the original. And sometimes that's hard. Now, if this is his overall eye, then we can see that he has a pupil that sits in about like there. Draw it really lightly. It's just above the bottom of his eye. And then he has these lines that can indicate the bottom of his eye. He has highlights, and this highlight extends above and below into the 4 box and into the 7 box. So it's pretty big. And then another highlight that's partly in the 5 and partly in the 8 box. And we can come over to this eye. It is in the 5, 6, and 8, 9 boxes. Let's see where it crosses. So it crosses in the 6 box. It's halfway between the bottom corner and the tick mark. Bottom corner and tick mark. That's the top. In the 9 box, it's halfway between the corner and the tick mark, between the corner and this is the tick mark. That's the bottom of the eye. It is halfway between the corner and the tick mark, going along the bottom of the 6. Here's the corner, here's the tick, here's the bottom of the 6. And then it is less than halfway between the corner and the tick mark. So this is halfway, This is less than halfway, going the other direction. So once you have all 4 of those coordinates plotted, it's a little bit like math, then you can kind of like loosely get your oval in place. Notice how light lines and making adjustments to get your oval in place. It is an oval, so you can't really trace anything like with a circle template. You just have to use the grid technique and plot your points as they cross the grid. Similar to the other eye, the pupil is up a little bit, forming a circle, and then there's these lines here. That also has a highlight over here. This highlight is mostly in the 5 box, but it does push over into the 6 and even a little bit down into the 8 and the 9. So it's going to be mostly in the 5, partly in the 6 and 8 and the 9. And then this one is evenly split between the 6 and the 9. And remember, if you're kind of freehanding it, your reference image, or rather your reference image compared to your drawing image, this is about 2.5 times bigger, which means that each shape, including like this little circle, will be 2.5 times bigger on your drawing. Let's put in his little smile. It's right in the center and just below the tick mark in the, what is this, 8 box. And again, that smile is going to be 2.5 times bigger than the original image. And then his little eyebrows. And you can see the eyebrow is halfway between the tick mark in the 6 and the top of the eye. Here's the tick mark, here's the top of the eye, and it goes like that. And here's the same, it's halfway between the top of the eye and the tick mark in the number 4. So here's the top of the eye and the tick mark, and something like that. The last thing that we want to draw is the little heart, and it is again 2.5 times bigger than the original. And I'm just gonna put it in here, something like that. Okay. Now you can use your brush pens, or if you want to use Sharpies, you have a thick Sharpie and there's thin Sharpies on the supply shelf. I'm going to go ahead and use my craft brush pens to give this guy some life. I'm going to start with my large and do all of my profile lines. Pushing down, coming across. Of course, before you do this, you want to make sure that you have all of those lines just like you want them. I'm going to push down as I get to my corners. I like to beef up those corners a little bit. And pushing down, lifting up, pushing down. So what I love about these brushes is that if you press and lift, then you get this really neat quality of line. Press and lift, press and lift. Go super slow. Press and lift. And then get this chocolate in here. Pressing down, lifting up, press. Ooh, this looks really cool. And press. Go slow. Go your own speed. All right, now that my different objects are outlined with the light, or I'm sorry, the large, L is for large. I'm going to go to the medium, do my eyes, press, and do the pupils, do the eyes, and the pupils, and maybe I'll do the mouth. And they have just the tiniest little cheeky things. And then I'm going to go to my small for my details. So the details would include my highlights, it would include the little lines that are part of, I guess, the iris. If the dark is the pupil, it would include the little heart, and it would include the eyebrows. All right. Now we can go ahead and take our eraser and erase. Hopefully you drew super light so it's super easy to erase. Remember, the grid is kind of an artist's secret. So part of keeping that secret is that if we erase completely, then nobody knows that we used that as a drawing aid. It's a really good idea to erase all of your pencil before you add any color pencil or color pastel. Or even if you decide to paint it, same thing with watercolors. You want to do all of your erasing, your pencil erasing first, unless for whatever artistic reason you want your pencil to show up. If you don't want your pencil work to show up, then you want to make sure that you erase it before you add any color. Looks like I could have done a little bit better job of making my grid lighter because I can still see it a little bit, and next time I'm going to keep that in mind. So here you have a perfectly sized, perfectly proportioned little S'more kawaii character, and it is about 2.5 times bigger than the original. Isn't that neat? So you can go ahead, take the rest of the day to use your color pencils or oil pastels or any other medium that you'd like in order to color him in. When you're done, sign your work. Great job.